Okay, thank you and good morning to everyone. We saw a film about the basic income experiment egg here in the beginning, and we know by now that the egg contains register data and the survey data, and I will talk perhaps about the least known part of this experimental egg, which is a study conducted with qualitative interviews. That is also a part of the basic income experiment evaluation. And unfortunately, this is also the part that has been starting a little bit later than the other parts. I have no results to present, but I will tell you something about the design of this interview study and why it is done and what we are hoping to achieve by interviewing those people who have been a part of this basic income experiment. So the project, we call it Life on Basic Income, elämää perustulolla in Finnish. And as I said, it's a qualitative interview study. It's carried out by a research group at the University of Helsinki, independently, but of course in the long run in cooperation with the other sub-projects we just have heard about. And it deals with the participants' subjective experiences and thoughts. An invitation to take part in this qualitative study has been sent to about 1,000 participants out of about 2,000. And the design has been a bit complicated. The invitation has not been sent by us at the University of Helsinki, but it has been sent via the Social Insurance Institution of Finland. And this invitation, it has contained a lot of information and also a form and a consent form, and if the receivers wanted to participate in this study, they should sign up under this form, this written consent, and they should mail it directly then to us at the University of Helsinki. We want to underline that this is an independent part of the evaluation of this experiment. The participants' identity taking part in this qualitative study and the interview data, they are not shared with the other colleagues taking part in this evaluation project, and that is because we want to strongly guarantee that the people taking part and also discussing their life from very many angles, that they are certainly protected and no one will know who they are and what they say, except then us in the research group. The motivation to do a qualitative study, some of the motivations are here. David Kalnitsky, who has been interested in the Manitoba experiment in Canada in the 1970s, he has written, I think, a rather good article where he, among other things, states, we often know what goes in and what comes out, but it's never clear what actually is going on in between. And this qualitative study is trying to put some flesh on the bones when it comes to that, what really happened in these people's lives when they received this basic income. He further continues, and this is not a critique against the other parts belonging to this experiment evaluation, but he writes that labor supply results are important, but tell us little about the actual people populating these studies, how they understood the program, how it impacted on their experiences of community life, and whether participation came with social psychological costs. What does it mean to be a part of an experiment, and especially an experiment which was not volunteer? So these are some of the important questions we think that we might also be able to answer in this Finnish qualitative study. So we want to know more about the respondents' own perceptions about an experience, and how did they feel to be in this experiment. How did it affect their employability, well-being, and life in general? And I think one could say that we aim at a very holistic and a very contextual type of study. We want to know what happened in these people's life before they joined the project, what happened during the project, and what has happened now after the project has stopped and is not longer a basic income project. And I think this holistic perspective, because people are not just basic income receivers. They come from somewhere and they have their values and their experiences, and then they get this decision: you are selected to the basic income experiment. And it's important to know from what they came, what did their life look like, for how long had they been unemployed, how did they experience that, what other things were important in their life, what kind of values and motivations did they have, because values are in a way also facts. They steer what we think and what we do, and what choices we see that we have, or do we see that we all have choices at all when it comes, for example, to job seeking or other things. So this holistic approach to the people taking part in this experiment was and is very important for us. We have as an aim to interview at least 50 people taking part in this experiment, and with the aim to get a rich data. We want to get people from diverse life situations, from different regions and so on, in order to see what can basic income mean for people in different situations. About the study and how it was conducted, we sent a letter that was actually in February 2019, after the experiment already was finished. And then we asked people to return their written consent to us in February 2019. And after that, we have had a person who has arranging the practical things and so on. And the interviews made so far, they have lasted for about 1 to 2 hours. And they are these certain teams. We are especially interested in the perceptions of their employability, of their well-being, and their general life situation, and of course, which we think also is important, how does it feel to be a part of the most famous experiment ever carried out in Finland, perhaps a world-famous experiment? How does it feel to one day get the letter from Kela, where it says that you are chosen to this experiment? And we were a bit nervous that would anyone want to participate in this kind of interviews. We know that long-term unemployed, they are not a group always so keen to take part in scientific research for very many good reasons. But we were hopeful and hoped that at least 50 persons should contact us. I was thinking about the questions and presentations which were raised here. The questions, for example, Otto said something about that. Did people understand that they could opt out from active labor market policies? And this is one of the questions that we might be able to answer when we have conducted all the other interviews. How did they understand really their choices and this experiment? I was also thinking about the question, why did not so many people take part in the survey? And again, the interviews might shed some light on this, where people can talk about what they thought about the survey and the experiment and the media attention and so on. So we think that also that it's good to give people an opportunity to talk about all the things they have been through during the experiment and also before that, because it might help also to understand the other sub-projects in this evaluation. And of course, as Elli Aaltonen said, that in the future there is expectations that there will be more experiments, and I think it's very important to get more knowledge about this experiment. How was it really perceived by those who took part in it, especially when it was not a volunteer experiment. So we sent out the invitations via the social insurance institution, and we were quite surprised because over 10% of those people we sent this invitation to, one letter by post, nothing more, and still over 10% of the persons who got it returned it and said we want to take part in this study. And thinking of all this, they get one mail from Kela, nothing else. We had no possibilities to send another reminder and so on. The ethical committee of Kela said that no, these are people, they have been bothered quite much already. One letter, that's what you get. And we sent this letter, and then the receivers, they should return it with a written consent or go to the mailbox, and they should wait to be contacted, and then they were contacted, and after that they should make room for taking part in an interview, which was rather long. So it's quite much what it was demanded by these persons who took part, and we think that the fact that over 100 persons wanted to take part in it, it's not bad, at least. So far, 42 interviews have been conducted in various parts of the country, in both rural and urban settings, and the interviewing is continuing during spring 2019. And then this last slide, I can't say anything about the results. I would like to say so much about the results, but they have to be treated properly, and we have to continue conducting still some more interviews. But some reflections is, well, one thing is that this study has been very well received by the participants. They have seen that it has been rather dignifying to talk about their own experience and evaluations and their life situation, that somebody is really interested just in you and what has happened to you and in your life and so on. It has been appreciated that this has been an independent part in the evaluation conducted by researchers from the University of Helsinki. Perhaps that there is some distance, perhaps to other parties, I don't know. And it has been perceived as very important to be able to give one's own account regarding experiment participation. Because this experiment has been so much discussed and presented in the media and by politicians and so on. And of course there have been some people taking part in this experiment who has also been active in the media, but most participants haven't, and they have felt that they have also something to give but they haven't been able to raise their voices yet. And this has, this interview study has been seen as an opportunity for them to share the knowledge they have of this very unique experiment. That was my presentation. Thank you.